Welcome everyone to our lesson on troubleshooting. In computer hardware and software, we are preparing to become computer technicians or IT technicians in general. This demands us to be very good sharpshooters. We should be able to troubleshoot or diagnose faults on clients' computers and laptops. So this short presentation will highlight some of the key factors that we need to become expert in troubleshooting PCs, computers. Computer problems are common in general. All computers, they face the almost similar problems. So the earlier you master these problems, you are 80% there to becoming a professional technician in the field. Now, to start off our discussion, we want to start by uh, describing what is this thing called troubleshooting. So, in short, troubleshooting can be defined as a method or as a procedure to, to find a fault in a computer system and correct that relevant fault or fix that error or in the hardware or in the software. An error could be in the software, it can be in the hardware. It is a rational and thorough approach to problem solving uh, for a good conclusion. Even while experience is a great asset while fixing problems, using a troubleshooting model will increase efficiency and speed. It's not a guesswork when you are troubleshooting. You don't just have to go to a computer and start switching it on and hope, thank God, you will discover the fault. There is a procedure that you should follow, a standard procedure, if you are going to succeed as a troubleshooter or as a technician, in other words. I said earlier on, troubleshooting is a process. It's an orderly process um, that you have to follow. Now, there's this term called preventative maintenance on computers. Even if a computer is not uh, displaying any faults or any error, as a technician, you should have a schedule. We'll discuss that in the third slide. You should, in our third lesson, sorry, we'll discuss that in our third lesson. You should have a schedule whereby you go around all the computers that is under your care and do what is called preventative maintenance. This will help you to prevent major faults from occurring within your computers. Another way of looking at troubleshooting is when customers actually get in touch with you and come up with issues regarding their personal computers or their desk computers or their laptops, whichever is the case. So, troubleshooting process can start while you are doing your preventative maintenance routines around the company's computers. You come across issues and you diagnose further or you troubleshoot to find the root cause of the problem and you correct those things before downtime, before the computers are experience a downtime, before even the user is aware that they were about to, just like a car, taking your car to service. You don't have to wait for the car to break down on the side of the road for you to take it to a garage for service. There is a predetermined time or time frame or kilometers where the car must go for service, whether it's performing well or not. When that time comes, someone has to open it and check it to make sure that you don't have to stop on the side of the road. That is the same thing that we are talking about here, called preventative maintenance. A technician who does not do preventative maintenance on his computers will always be in a crisis situation where computers actually break down or stop functioning normally, or in the worst case scenario, lose data and that is not good for any technician, for him to be called only when there is a crisis. Preventative maintenance takes a little time, and if properly implemented, can prevent major faults from happening within your computers. Troubleshooting, therefore, is a logical approach. You use a logical approach that enables you to rule out all potential reasons and pinpoint them in a methodical order, which means that you are doing something that is logical. You don't just do guesswork. Troubleshooting is not guesswork. Once you start troubleshooting and you are guessing, hey, you are in for a big trouble, because you might end up creating problems or creating faults that were not there because you are not sure, you don't have a proper method of tackling these issues. So troubleshooting must be done properly for it to yield the required results. How do we do troubleshooting in a proper way? As I emphasized earlier on in class, you have to ask the correct questions to the customer. Remember, sometimes you receive a call, you have not been using this computer for the last 6 months. You are not the user of the computer. In other words, you are not the driver of the car. The driver of the car is the one who calls out a mechanic to say, hey, I am having a problem with my car. Instead of you rushing to touch the engine of the car, you ask the driver what happened, or did he hear any sounds? Was there any behavior that the vehicle was displaying? The same thing with computers. Ask the correct questions to the user of the computer. And then you test the appropriate hardware. And try also and look at the data that the computer has been processing. All these can help you find the faults quicker and fix and be at the heart of the problem. If you don't ask questions, you are most likely going to conclude wrongly. Most of the time, we go there with I know attitude to the computer, to the customer's computer, and we make the wrong conclusions. This is very dangerous, and this is very, very expensive for the technician, because you end up repairing things that were not damaged in the first place. And finally, when you discover the fault, maybe you didn't need all those new hardware components that you have to install. Sometimes the customer ends up losing all his data in the computer because the technician was attacking the wrong problem. So asking the correct questions at the beginning is the best medicine to any troubleshooter. For any troubleshooter, for any technician, remember, you can only improve your troubleshooting skills over time. You have to have experience. As time goes on, your abilities will improve. Sometimes an experienced troubleshooter combines 2 or 3 tricks or methods and quickly arrive at the fault. And you get surprised. Why does it take 2 hours for a technician to get to a fault, yet it takes 15 minutes for another one? This is why experienced workers are paid more than college leavers, for example, because experienced workers have learned their trade. They can do multitasking, combine 2 or 3 theories when they're approaching a problem, and out of 10, 8 times out of 10, they get to the fault quicker because they are following maybe 3 methods at the same time, or 3 leads at the same time, which the college lever, you have to follow 1 lead at a time, exhaust it, come back to another suspicion, follow it, exceed it. That takes time. So experience does not come overnight, and experience is not obtained in a textbook. You have to be troubleshooting to gain experience. The same as a pilot flying an aeroplane once is not enough. That's why pilots, for you to pilot or to fly an aircraft over long distances, they need certain number of hours. You must accumulate certain number of hours before they can entrust you to those long routes. It's exactly the same reason. They know that experience, they always say that experience is the best teacher. No matter how many degrees, qualifications you might have in computers, if you don't accumulate experience, your troubleshooting is still questionable, or you still need experience on the ground for you to be an expert in troubleshooting. Let me sound a warning here. Let me sound a very strong warning here. As we embark on troubleshooting, the most important item on any computer is the data, the information that it holds, the information that it is to process. So, as a technician or as a troubleshooter, please try to make precautions so that you do not lose this data. A customer will not forgive you if you lose their data. They may forgive you if you break a keyboard, because with 100 Rand, you can replace that keyboard. With 50 Rand, you can go out and get a new mouse if you, by mistake, damage their mouse. But if you lose their data, chances are that they lose a lot of money. There's no way you are going to recreate that data, because data is created from real life situations. So try and not lose customers' data, because some businesses can actually take you to court or can actually sue you for damages, because data is what makes them make money. Data that is held by their computers that they want you to fix or to repair is what makes them make money. So if you end up losing that data, some companies may not take it lightly. They may hand you over to their legal experts or to their lawyers, and you end up paying a lot of money. So make sure before you start any troubleshooting, the customer's data or the computer's data is protected. We are going to go now into the issue of backups. A backup is just transferring your computer's data or duplicating it to another saving medium, from a hard drive to an external hard drive. That is normally the simplest backup. Nowadays, because of availability of cloud storage, some backups are also held on cloud storage. Please, please, please make sure when you go to attend to to a customer's computer, make sure you prioritize that, and no matter how simple the procedure which you want, make sure that data is protected. And the best way to protect it is to make backups. Ask the user to save their data before you start working on their machine. Ask the users always, as a rule of the thumb, ask them about their data, ask them about their important files that is on that computer, whether those files are actually backed up. Failure to do this, you are only digging your own grave in the computer world. Again, I want to emphasize, do not start any troubleshooting activities until you check with the customer. I'm just going to list a few things, just a few things to ascertain yourself that really backup has been performed. How do we assure ourselves, how do we confirm with ourselves that data has actually been backed up? Number one, check the date of the last backup of the data. Also check the contents. Just browse through and just to ascertain yourself that what they claim as a backup is truly a backup. Because some customers will think they backed it up, yet the backup did not happen as they thought it was happening. Remember, not all users are as with computers as they claim to be. You are not. It doesn't mean you don't trust them, but you are just protecting yourself. You are just protecting your integrity. Make sure you, if they say they've got a backup, just ask to have a look at the backup. Check on these things: the last date of the backup, the content of the backup. Also, is it possible to recover data from this medium? The integrity of the backup. Because some backups, it is impossible to recover that data. You need specialized software to recover from that backup. It is not a good backup. You need a backup which you can easily recover data from. So make sure you check on the integrity of the backup. Yes, the backup might be there, but it might be encrypted. And even the customer maybe is not even aware that the data is encrypted. And you need a special key, which you don't have. And the customer does not remember the key that you need. I have come across computers with very nice backups, but for you to recover from that backup, you need a certain password, and the only person who knows that password is a system administrator who left the company 4 years ago, and nobody bothered, and nobody needed to recover data from that backup. And honestly, they never bothered to ask that administrator who left the company 4 years ago. So here you have a problem. The date is okay, the contents are encrypted, and the backup there's no integrity in the backup because you can't restore from that backup because you don't have the password, which means you must format and start afresh. Hey, it's important to double check these things. Also, is all the backup media available for data restore? Is all the backup media available for the data restore? Because some backups are kept in company safes, which needs the CEO of the company, maybe the security officer of the company to be contacted for you to get that disk or that backup hard drive or external hard drive, all these things. Make sure you are setting yourselves that your backups can be implemented. Otherwise, the backups are there and you can't implement. You finish fixing the customer's computer. Now it's time to restore their data. You find yourself in problems. So this step is very, very important, very critical. In the event that the backup is not available or it's not possible to back up the data on the customer's computer, please make sure you have some form of a written agreement. We call this um, um, acceptance of liability. It's no longer you are no longer liable, or you are no longer accountable for the total loss of the data, of which the customer must agree that you're touching their computer or you're repairing their computer. If any data is to be lost in the process, you are not liable for any damages. They are authorizing you to go ahead with the troubleshooting and repair. Of course, you exercise a lot of caution and care, but in the event that data is lost, you are not liable for any damages. So it's just like a waiver of responsibility for lost data or corrupted data. This is very, very important. You may overlook it, it's fine. But one time, one day, or at one instance, a customer, you find yourself in a very big trap. You have touched the customer's computer and the data is lost, there's no backup, and the customer is filing for damages. It will be very difficult for you to come out of this one unless there is something written uh, protecting you from such liabilities. Also, in that agreement, a proper description of what work you are going to do on the computer must be clearly spelled out. I'm only saying this in the event that the customer does not have, or it is impossible for you to help them perform a backup. Then this form of agreement is very, very important. And describe the work that you are going to do, which means if data is lost and your work is properly described, it's not your responsibility that data is lost. This is a very, very important. Every technician should have these papers in his toolbox somewhere when you are going out for faults or when you are called out to a customer's premises. It will help you and your team to have this documentation with you and file it with your superior at work. Make sure you keep it safe. You can even scan it and store it in a cloud storage. You never know the day that rain will come. This will help you. If you incorporate it into your everyday work ethics, this will help you. If all your customers know that even if it's not a serious issue, you always want something written down, this will help you. And they will begin to see you as a professional that you are. As a professional that you are. Now let us quickly go through some of the steps that we need to follow in the troubleshooting process. Number one, we have to find the real fault. This is the first step before anything. Don't start touching people's computers before you repairing things before you know the actual fault. Create a theory of probable cause in step number 2. Once you have identified the real fault, then a theory of probable cause must be in your mind. It must be in your mind. For example, the computer CPU processor fan is not working. What are the causes of that cause that fan not work? Number one, maybe there's no power supply, or is the where it must be connected to the power supply, that pin is loose. Number one. Number two, maybe the bearings are broken. Number three, maybe the processor itself is bent. Number four, maybe there was a power surge and all the electrical components of the computer were damaged. These are just theories of the probable cause why the fan of the CPU is not working. I'm just giving this as an example. Now, the third step is for you to test your theory, whether your theory that you have come up with is true. Remember, at this point, it's just a theory. It has not been proven. Every theory must be proven. So the third step is to test that theory and identify the root problem. Why did the CPU fan stop working? Was it a power surge? Was it just a pin which is loose? Is it because the bearings are broken, etc.? Create a plan of action to remedy the issue and put the solution into practice. What are you gonna do now? The fact is that the fan is not working. After you try to implement your theory, you really find that for sure the fan is not working and it has been blown off because of a power surge. Step number 5, ensure complete system functionality and, if necessary, put preventative measures in place. What caused the fan not to work in the first place? And what other measures should have been taken to prevent that type of problem from occurring? In this case, I just said, let's say it's a power surge because of these constant power failures. Then you have to implement to the customer and advise them, okay, to avoid this in future, maybe buy an uninterrupted power supply, which will regulate the amount of power coming into your computer. If there's a power failure, your computer is not immediately affected. You can operate it for a few more minutes or a few more hours, depending on the size of the UPS. Those are now measures that are implemented in the functionality of the system to prevent this problem of a power surge damaging your computer fan. At the end, a good technician's job is not done until a report is written. A full report of the faults, a full report of what you did, a full report of the results of your work. You have to document your work. Failure to document your work means that the technician's job is not properly done. Make sure you master this issue of documenting your findings and documenting whatever you did. Every computer in your organization must have a fault card or a small card somewhere where you note down the faults, how you resolved them, when you resolve them, etc., etc. So that in future, maybe you get promoted and you have to send junior technicians or interns under you to go and fix. At least they have somewhere to start. They have a history of each and every computer. If a whole computer is replaced, it must be indicated on that card that the computer has been replaced. This will help you going forward. It might not make sense at the beginning, but after some time, after you've accumulated some information, it will help you. It will make your troubleshooting life much easier because of these records, written records. Thank you. You are a very good technician. You can fix any problem. You can attend to any fault at any time. But here comes a few guidelines because in the process, you need to speak to customers. Number one, ask direct questions so that you get information. Don't beat about the bush. Ask direct, polite questions to the customer. Please, we know that you are a technician. Do not use your industry jargon on the computers. Do not use your jargon on the customers. Use simple language which they can understand and reply you properly. Use your jargon when you are talking to other IT professionals. But when you're talking to ordinary customers, do not frighten them with your jargon. Doctors never tell you the names of the diseases. They are simple diseases, but if you see the name uh, that they attach to those diseases, you'll be surprised. 13-word names to simple problems like a flu, simple diseases like a headache, simple diseases like a heart pain, for example. We call it heart pain, but go to the doctor's books, it's called something else. So try to avoid taking your computer jargon to the customers. Do not talk down to the customer. Don't stand above the customer and show them that you are the expert here. Don't talk down to the customer. Do not insult the customer. Maybe they can't use the mouse properly. And then in you trying to show them how to use the mouse, you may end up insulting them. Try and develop some skills to deal with your customers. Very, very important, no matter how good you are, no matter how good the mechanic is, but if you're insulting the owner of the car that you are supposed to fix, then you are not doing a good job. No matter how good you are, do not insult the customer. Do not accuse the customer of causing the problem. Even if you see that coffee was spilled on the keyboard and that is what caused the problem, do not accuse the customer. Just fix the problem politely and try and make the customer as comfortable as possible. If you go around accusing customers or users to their bosses that they are the ones causing problems, you are not going to have a nice time working as a computer technician. Because the next time the customers see you coming, they'll create all sorts of defensive mechanisms against you, and it won't help you in your job. Your job is not to report customers to their bosses that they are causing the computers to crash or to have faults or because they are visiting certain sites. Because as a technician, you may end up seeing that customer A, why the reason why the computer is always having viruses is because he's visiting those sites, those sites, those sites. Try maybe and recommend to the system administrator that certain sites be blocked without necessarily saying customer X is visiting such and such sites. I am saying here, do not accuse the customer of causing the problem. Try by all means not to accuse the customer of causing problems. Unless in your work you discover that the customer X, is committing fraud, is hacking into the system, and is stealing and is causing unrepairable damage to the company, then it is your duty to inform the authorities of your findings. Otherwise, you are not a spy for the management. You are there to do a professional job. Unless you are not covering a crime or helping to cover a crime that is being committed by use of the computers they are repairing, please do not have the habit of accusing customers. For that, thank you very much. I've arrived at the end of our part one of our presentation on troubleshooting. In the next presentation, I will go into detail on practically what to do when you open a computer, step-by-step process, finding faults, how to fix some of the common faults, how to diagnose common faults, and how to make sure that the customer, because if you train your customers, you are going to reduce the amount of faults that occur. So slowly but surely, as you go to a customer's computer, when you leave, the customer must be a better user, because you are going to advise them or you are going to train them a little bit without them knowing that you are training them. You are going to show them one or two things that they must do and one or two things that they mustn't do in order to prevent some of the faults. Thank you. I will see you again in the next presentation. Thank you. Thank you. Remember, this is just an overview. Your textbook obviously has got more information. Let's go to the respective chapter in our textbook and read and study and dig for some more information. This one is just to help you get started in troubleshooting. I hope it helps. Thank you, guys. I will see your comments in the comment section. Thank you.